I found this recipe in one of my church cookbooks and I just had to try it. Sometimes you don't want to make an entire batch of rolls at one time, so this recipe is perfect. Hey y'all, I'm Valerie and welcome to my kitchen. I'm so glad you're here. In today's video, I'm making old-fashioned refrigerator rolls. You make the dough and it'll last in the refrigerator for about 3 or 4 days, and about 2 hours before you need them, you just pinch some off and go from there. So let's go make them. Here's everything you're gonna need to make them, plus a little butter, of course. This is the cookbook that I got the recipe from. It comes from Newberry, South Carolina, and this is a really good cookbook, by the way. Here's the recipe if you want to screenshot it. And the instructions were not very detailed. It just says to knead above ingredients into a dough until smooth. So I had to kind of make some guesses here. You'll need 2 packages of dry yeast, or 4½ teaspoons if you're using the little jar like I am. And I added my yeast to 2 cups of warm water. I just stirred it and let it sit here for a little bit. The recipe just said that the yeast needed to be softened in warm water. After 5 minutes, it got a little frothy, so I moved on to the next step. You'll need 3/4 cup of Crisco. And it didn't say, but I melted mine in the microwave and let it cool down for a little bit. I had seen another similar recipe and they melted their Crisco, so that's why I did that. Oh, and I don't know if I mentioned it, but I did use butter flavored Crisco just because I wanted to. But the regular will be fine too. I added it to the bowl of my stand mixer along with 1/2 cup of sugar. Then I used my dough whisk attachment just to give it a little stir there. I put that dough hook back on there, and then I added in that warm water and yeast mixture that we made up just a little bit ago. I also added 1 well-beaten egg. And I wanted to go ahead and mix this a little bit to make sure everything got well combined. I just mixed it for about a minute or so. Now you're going to need 7 cups of sifted all-purpose flour. And you may not need it all, so I do recommend adding it a little at a time. Just add some and then mix, and then add a little more and then mix again. I did end up using all of my flour, by the way. You don't want it to be super sticky, but you'll know it's done when that dough pulls away from the sides of the bowl. And this is perfect here. Now you're going to need a bowl for this, and keep in mind this dough is going to double in size. So just make sure you get a big enough bowl. And you can see that dough slid right off the hook there. And y'all will have to let me know if there's another type of bread or a bread recipe that you want me to try. This was pretty fun to make. Okay, I got a big enough bowl, and I did spray my bowl with non-stick spray. Or you can rub it down with a little oil. And the recipe said you could cover the bowl with a damp cloth or wax paper, but this bowl already had a lid, so I just popped that lid on. Now you're going to place this in the refrigerator to chill until you're ready to use it. And I just left it in the fridge until the next day. When I opened it, it did double in size. I tried to punch it down like you normally do a recipe, like a bread recipe, after you let it rise, but it didn't punch like the typical bread. Or I guess I should say it didn't deflate, but I did knead it for just a little bit. Then I just pinched off some little pieces of dough, kind of about the shape of golf balls or maybe a tiny bit smaller. And I was watching somebody recently making rolls, and they took the ball of dough, they made a circle with their hand, with their fingers, and pushed it through, and then just pinched it together on the bottom. And after you get the hang of it, it does help to make that top a little smoother. Normally what I do is just stretch and fold in, stretch and fold in, and I keep doing that a few times, and then I turn that upside down to make a little ball. Or you just want to make sure where you fold all that together, that part is on the bottom. Just because you want that top nice and smooth. I made 35 rolls on this day, but I still had a good bit of that dough left. And I just covered mine with a cheesecloth. Now you're going to place these in a warm area for 1.5 to 2 hours. And I'm not sure if mine completely doubled in size, but they did get a lot bigger. Now these are going into a preheated 400-degree oven to bake for 12 to 15 minutes. And all ovens are different, but I did bake mine for 15 minutes. They did get a tiny bit golden brown on top, and as soon as they come out of the oven, I did brush on some melted butter. Now you can skip this step, but I do not recommend it. You could also add a tiny bit of honey to that melted butter before you add it on, and that would be really good. These turned out really good. They were delicious. Now I do recommend only making enough for the day of. They were still really good, but that second day I could tell where they started to get a little dense. But these all got gone. Now with the rest of that dough, I didn't make a full pan like I did here. I made just what I knew we would eat, and they were perfect. Oh, and I loved having it in the refrigerator, the dough already made, and it didn't take no time at all to just pinch some off and roll it into rolls, and then I let it rise, and then we had rolls to go along with our dinner. These were absolutely delicious, and I will be making them again. I really hope you enjoyed this video. You may also like these. Don't forget to subscribe down below for more easy recipes, and I will see you in the next one.